Long before generative AI tools such as ChatGPT became popular, logistics and supply chain systems were already hyper-digitized. They were using a lot of different information technology systems such as warehouse management systems, ERP, Internet of Things, different types of sensors, um, QR codes, even blockchain. Then why do they now need generative artificial intelligence? Or what generative artificial intelligence, what benefits these generative artificial intelligence tools can bring in logistics and supply chain system? Before talking about that, let's first understand what logistics exactly involves. Logistics is about planning, organizing, and managing the movement, storage, and flow of goods, services, and information from the points of origin to a destination. And the goal is to manage resources in the right place, right time, and at the right cost. So this is the main idea behind logistics. So where exactly generative artificial intelligence tools play a role here? Uh, Generative artificial intelligence tools main advantage is that they can analyze a large amount of unstructured data like text, images, video, and provide better tools to make logistics related decisions. Let's take an example of invoice and document processing. Generative AI tools can read a lot of data, unstructured data, for example, related to freight invoices, different shipping emails, different customs forms from regulators all over the world. And by reading a vast amount of information from these different documents, they can extract information needed for key fields. For example, they can extract information related to costs, they can extract information related to shipment IDs and different dates. And by analyzing this information, they can find a lot of different inconsistencies if they exist in those documents. For example, there might be overbilling related issues, or there might be some missing entries, and generative AI tools can identify those, can pinpoint those. And this means they can also convert all this information from different sources that we talked earlier, and they can make ready into structured data for other types of information technology systems being used in logistics, such as the ERP system, which might need more structured data, and generative AI tools can help generate that type of data. For example, a logistics manager can upload a lot of different documents, let's say 1,000 different invoices containing a lot of information, and generative artificial intelligence tools can summarize all those different types of errors that are likely involved, and also they can prepare some type of accounting entries for all those documents by reading all those different documents. And another key role that generative AI tools can play in logistics and supply chain management is there is some type of disruption. There is supplier disruption, and they can generate what if scenario. So supplier disruption and logistics disruption is a common phenomenon. Like for example, there was COVID-19 pandemic, supply chain and logistics systems were disrupted that time, and right now there is US-Iran conflict going on in the Middle East, and supply chains and logistics systems are being disrupted, and generative AI tools could be really helpful tools in these kind of circumstances. So they can basically prepare some type of kind of easily understandable documents based on information that we basically provide to generative artificial intelligence tools. For example, what suppliers are affected if the port of Buenaventura in Colombia is let's say delayed for 2 weeks. So generative artificial intelligence interprets the question that logistics managers are asking to the system, and then they can provide information that helps to make decision. Like they can analyze information from supply chain graph data, and also they can explain which suppliers are likely to be affected by the disruption. And that means they can suggest the logistic managers what are the alternative suppliers are likely to be affected, that is which nodes are more likely to be affected, and in that case which are being exposed to this type of disruption, and what are the other alternatives. Maybe use the another port, for example the Cartagena port or something like that. And so they can use supply chain analytics and use a lot of different tools to make kind of decisions that can help to take actions for logistics managers in this type of disruption. And another key area that generative artificial intelligence can play very important role is in procurement related things. And all companies, especially big companies, have a lot of database related to, for example, procurement database, and they also have the RFQ, request for quote database. And generative artificial intelligence tools can play a key role here. So they set terms of supply network before even logistics even starts. For example, helping work on the RFQ documents better. So if one supplier is affected, for example, let's say by any type of disruption, then what are the alternative suppliers? They are from the same geographic region, they have the same type of risk profile, and in terms of cost, they are similar, and what are the alternative suppliers available in that case. And generative AI tools can help basically suppliers and logistics managers make better decisions that time. And in the case of RFQ and procurement related things, generative AI tools can, for example, read the inventory gaps in the company's database, and also they can work on demand forecast, and based on these they generate RFQs for the company, and they write emails to all suppliers, and also they can compare the responses from different suppliers. And for example, if they have to prepare some type of documents, RFQs for emergency semiconductor suppliers in Europe, they can find all of those semiconductor suppliers in Europe, and how they compare with other suppliers and their cost and performance, and all that type of things are very helpful using generative artificial intelligence tools. And another key area where generative artificial intelligence tools help is in the compliance of different regulatory requirements. For example, the ESG type of compliance, that is environmental, social, and governance compliance, like generative AI tools can help companies comply with those. So companies might have already those ESG traceability data, traditional traceability systems, and they might have a lot of database already. But those databases and the traceability systems may not be able to respond if there is new type of regulatory requirements are coming into existence. Let's say more and more regulators all over the world require different companies to make sure that they follow all these social sustainability in their supply chain, making sure that all supply chain partners are treated in a fair way. So that is really becoming important all over the world. Many countries have soft law, and countries like France actually have hard law. That means many companies basically cannot say that they do not know their suppliers. They are required to know that those sustainability related requirements are fulfilled in their suppliers. For example, there is the forced labor risk in the upstream cotton supply chain, and the regulators require all companies to make sure that there is no forced labor. And generative AI tools will be very helpful in this case. What they can do is they can read all the regulations that are being enacted all over the world related to the forced labor in the cotton supply chain. And based on that, they can look at the supplier data. They can read various news items published all over the world, and by reading that news item and the regulations and information about various suppliers, they can flag the suppliers that are kind of high risk suppliers. So this is one of the key areas where generative artificial intelligence could be helpful. So one last thing that is important to mention, that every company these days is using generative artificial intelligence, and most companies are using agent. And generative artificial intelligence alone or artificial intelligence alone, they are not sufficient to develop better competitive advantage. The main advantage these days comes from orchestration, coordination of all these different tools that companies have. Some of them are generative AI tools, some of them are non-AI tools, and orchestrating, making sure that all of those tools are coordinated, which is called orchestration. That is the key advantage, and that's what logistics and supply chain managers will need more and more. Thank you very much for listening. See you in the next video.